This is bad. I've just learned I've only got about 30 minutes left until I'm diagnosed with death. That's not enough time to get through all the JRPGs I've wanted to play. Well, it says here that the only cure for this is to apparently go through the entire history of the JRPG genre. Guess I have no choice. Video games, often defined by their base genres that offer all sorts of experiences for players. From rhythm games, sandbox games, there's something for everyone. But the one genre that has always caught my attention is the JRPG genre. The RPG genre has been around for a long time, beginning with Dungeons & Dragons and evolving from there into one of the most popular and expansive genres today. But in the mid-1980s, something changed this genre forever. On July 15, 1983, Nintendo released the Famicom, their first home console. This is what truly can be considered to kickstart the JRPG genre. At this point in time, not many families in Japan had access to a home computer, so a lot of the Western RPGs just couldn't be played over in Japan. But that didn't stop a lot of the early JRPGs from being based on the Western RPGs. Ultima and Wizardry are some of the biggest inspirations for games like Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, and can be considered the grandfathers of the JRPG genre. Well, let's see how good these games really are. Okay, maybe let's not. Wizardry and Ultima were released in 1981 for the Apple II computer in America. They are both role-playing games with basic gameplay and graphics, but each game would play an important role in making the JRPG genre. Wizardry is a dungeon-crawling game in which the players have their party and throughout the maze have random encounters with turn-based combat, while Ultima is a top-down open-world game with real-time combat. While both of the games today can be pretty rough to play, they've had a massive influence on the JRPG genre. But in 1986, Dragon Quest was released, and this can be considered to be the first truly successful JRPG. Might not have been the first ever released, but it's what really pushed the genre into the mainstream, taking elements from both Wizardry and Ultima and merging it with Akira Toriyama's art style from Dragon Ball, created a truly amazing game that helped define the JRPG genre to what it is today. Published by Enix, Dragon Quest managed to create what is essentially the JRPG experience, starting out in a castle, exploring the map with random encounters, and leveling up along the way. Dragon Quest, while it might not have been the very first JRPG ever made, was the one to do so right. The game itself is very simple, but it took the combat of Wizardry to create its battles and merged it with the map of Ultima, while for the story it took inspiration from the book The Portopia Serial Murder Case for a more non-linear way of telling the story in the game. Combining all of these elements allowed for Yuji Horii to make an amazing game, one that would become the inspiration for many JRPG games later. And to follow Dragon Quest, in September of 1987, Digital Devil Story would release Atlus's first published game, and this would pioneer the monster capturing subgenre, which sure won't come back for the most popular video game series, not as Pokemon or anything. Right? Digital Devil Story is a first-person dungeon crawler where the player picks the stats of the two characters, Nakajima and Yumiko, and explores the labyrinth. Combat is pretty much the same as Dragon Quest and Wizardry with random turn-based encounters, but the main innovation is being able to talk with the demons. By talking with them, you might be able to recruit them in battle and capture them. Devil's Story might not be as well known as the other early JRPGs, but it's the one that completely created one of the most well-known genres today, a monster capturing genre. This game, despite creating such a well-known and popular genre today, is not well-known enough. Even among Atlus's titles, it's hardly known at all, but it's one that just has had such a huge impact on the genre, not only in monster capturing, but JRPGs as a whole. But in December of 1987, Final Fantasy would be released, and this took what Dragon Quest did and improved on it, and especially in one main aspect. It gave you more than just one person. You're no longer lonely, got 3 other people in your party to journey with. Final Fantasy is, in many ways, similar to Dragon Quest. It took the same approach to the map, with it being top-down, random encounters with turn-based combat, and a magic system, but the main innovation of Final Fantasy is the party system, which is more similar to Ultima's. At the start of the game, you could choose 4 characters from 6 different classes and play through the game with the character you chose. This party system would persist throughout the years, as most JRPG games let you only have 4 active party members. And later, in 1988, Dragon Quest III would release, and this improved upon Final Fantasy's party and class system. Final Fantasy, you had a party of 4, and you chose your classes at the start of the game, but Dragon Quest III introduced the vocation system, which allowed the player to more effectively choose and customize their party and classes while playing the game. With this new system, more depth and complexity can be added into the game. Rather than just having 3 of 6 classes be mages like Final Fantasy, you're able to choose from 8 different classes, and the personalities link the player more options while playing the game, changing how the party system would be in JRPGs forever. And now that the JRPG genre was starting to become more popular and well-known, more companies were putting their games into it, and with that, Mother 1 would be released by Nintendo. Released in 1989 for the Famicom, Mother 1 became a popular and cult classic JRPG. With its deep and complex story mixed with fun gameplay, this game became popular in Japan pretty quickly. Even though it's not visually striking, everything else about it makes it a great JRPG. In a time when the JRPG genre was still innovating and trying new concepts, Mother was more traditional in its gameplay. And Nintendo wouldn't stop there. They needed another JRPG, and so in 1990 they released Fire Emblem, a combination of the tactics genre and the JRPG genre, to create something amazing. And still has games being released unlike Earthbound. Compared to Mother, Fire Emblem was the game Nintendo wanted to do that innovations to the JRPG genre with, merging the tactics genre with the JRPG genre, create their own unique style. This combination would become very popular within the JRPG genre, with a mini-series like Final Fantasy and Persona having their own tactics-style game one day. But in 1995, there'd be another JRPG published by Enix that would become one of the most popular and well-known games worldwide, Chrono Trigger. And so surely this game would become the one that revolutionized and popularized the JRPG genre worldwide. Okay, we'll get to that. Chrono Trigger, a game that combines all the greatest elements of the JRPG genre and innovates them. The creator of Dragon Quest behind it, along with Akira Toriyama doing the art, and Yasunori Mitsuda doing an amazing soundtrack for the game. Everything just made this game a wonderful experience, with a deep and complex story that has 13 endings, that has the player jumping back and forth in time with a great cast of characters and an amazing map to explore. But the biggest innovation of this game is combat, deciding to ditch the traditional turn-based combat for real-time combat. Instead of going to a different battle screen, enemies would jump you, and you'd have to fight them off wherever you are. Chrono Trigger is such an amazing game, and is still known as one of the greatest games ever made. But sadly, it wouldn't be the one to popularize the JRPG genre in the West, because that would be coming in 1997 with the release of Final Fantasy VII on the PlayStation. Final Fantasy VII is known for many different aspects, along with being the most popular Final Fantasy game. But this is also the game that would go on to make the JRPG genre much more popular and known in the West through the PlayStation 1. It was one of the main games for the PlayStation and was one of the few JRPGs that had 3D graphics at the time. While Chrono Trigger is popular and an amazing game, Final Fantasy VII just had that extra push to it that brought the genre into the spotlight. With a phenomenal marketing campaign and being on the new console everyone wanted, Final Fantasy VII had an enormous reach in the West. Everything just came together with this game to make the JRPG genre finally have the reach outside of Japan it needed to become a mainstay in gaming. But now it's time to address the elephant in the room: Pokemon. Released in 1996 for Nintendo's Game Boy, Pokemon Red and Green were released in Japan, with Red and Blue coming to the West in 1998, because apparently Japan thought Americans could not handle the concept of grass. With Pokemon's worldwide release, it quickly rose to the top as one of the must-play games on the Game Boy, with its simple but fun capturing system and letting the player choose from 150 different Pokemon to use. So much about this game sparked joy into not just kids, but adults as well. Going through Kanto and the 8 gyms with such a large amount of Pokemon lets everyone have a completely different experience with the game. Not to mention the anime and card games that followed shortly after the game's release to help spread the reach even further. Today, Pokemon is pretty much everywhere, and every new game instantly sells millions, even if it doesn't deserve to. But they have so many different revenue streams, from cards to plushes to clothes and even homeware. Pokemon is pretty much everywhere in the world and has become a complete sensation that everyone knows. And to follow that, in 2002, Kingdom Hearts would be released for the PlayStation 2. Finally, Mickey Mouse is in an action game. Kingdom Hearts is a JRPG that blends with the action RPG genre, creating its own unique game. Published by Squaresoft and using Disney elements, allows the game to have such a wide audience. The action is seamlessly incorporated into the JRPG elements, with the many action JRPG mixes following it. Kingdom Hearts revolutionized and popularized the combination of action RPG and JRPGs that is very popular now. And now that the JRPG genre has become a main staple of gaming, not as many games were willing to innovate or revolutionize the genre. But there'd be one more game that kind of changed the JRPG landscape, and that would be Persona 3. Released in 2006 by Atlus, this game merged the life sim elements of other games and the JRPG genre. And I'm not just saying that because it's the best Persona game or anything, but it did truly revolutionize the JRPG landscape into what it is today. Released in 2006 by Atlus, Persona 3 is a blend of dungeon crawling during the night with life sim elements during the day, and it's this combination of genres that became popular in the JRPG genre, with many games now having some life sim elements in it. Especially with dating, Persona 3 allowed the player to choose one, or if you're that kind of person, multiple characters to date. This doesn't have any impact on the gameplay or story, but it gave the player more immersion while playing the game. While Persona 3 wasn't the first JRPG to blend these two elements, it was the one that popularized it, with many JRPGs today having some sort of life sim element baked into them. Overall, the JRPG genre has grown significantly in the short amount of time it's been here, with many popular games like Persona 5, Yakuza, The Full Fantasio, Octopath Traveler, and many more being a part of this genre. It's truly grown into something special. Even if the games can be 40 hours long, I love every minute of playing these games. They offer a rich and deep experience, combining great story with great gameplay elements. Well, now that I've finally gone through the entire history of the JRPG genre, I'm no longer diagnosed with death. I can finally be free from having to beat every single god that slightly inconveniences me.